UFID. This is my note card, front and back. And then we have, in the audience, my sister and her boyfriend from Dallas, Texas. They are waving hi. And then we have these three gentlemen today waving. So that is a total of 5.
Tip of the fedora.
Yes, in my audience today. Very grateful for that. All right. Right. Okay. So why is this number important? 800,000 is the number of people that commit suicide roughly in a year. That is what the World Health Organization reports. Now today I want to talk to you about why we should be looking into mental health and implementing better resources for it. We will be discussing the hardships that people go through with mental health, why they can't get the accessibility that they desperately need, policies that should be supported on getting better mental health accessibility for people and care that they need, as well as visualizing a future where numbers like this are way lower and more people are getting the health care that they deserve. So to start off, suicide numbers have increased drastically with this year alone. The American Institute of Mental Health reports that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in America. The World Health Organization states that approximately 35% of an increase has been seen in suicides since the year of 1999. The Lansing Psychology Group also states the reason why they believe that suicide rates have been increasing in 2020 alone is because of the pandemic, because of feelings of isolation. They can't get help that they need. Some people lost jobs, or some healthcare services just aren't available, and it's very limited. Those are part of the many reasons why some of those numbers have increased this year. Now, I myself am not a psychologist or a doctor in any way, but I do understand these topics because I myself have gone through mental health struggles. I have ADHD and I wanted treatment for it this semester because it's been a very tough semester, but I was not able to get the help that I needed. They were all full. And that is what many Americans sadly go through. Sadly, I've also lost a friend to suicide this year, and it is because of the issue of healthcare not being available. That is the main reason why it happened. Now, going into what causes suicides or why people feel the way they do. There are many reasons why people can feel sad or resulting to suicide. It can go anywhere from stress, anxiety, trauma, financial hardships, many more issues, or just no accessibility. Now, 60% of American counties do not have access to psychiatrists. That is what is reported by the World Health Organization. And only 55% of psychiatrists take private health insurance, while other primary care and doctors take up to 89%. The American Association of Health does state that. And that really shows you that people can't access the mental health that they need, but they can access other things. Now, to go along with the story with this, a woman, and this is reported by the Mississippi Today, she had a mental health struggle for years and needed help desperately. And finally one day she says to her husband, "I need help. I need to go to the hospital, or I think I just might die." And all he could say was, "We can't afford it." And the fact that many Americans have to go through that dilemma of what can I afford, my health or my house, it's a very sad decision that they have to make. But there's a way that we can prevent stuff from like this happening. Now, the World Health Organization has a slight solution using an optimal mix of services in this pyramid. I will show you on my tablet so I can better show you everything. So at the bottom, we have limiting the number of mental health hospitals. They're very costly and sometimes inefficient with help. Next, we have building community mental health services. That way people can have local help in their area. Up here, we have developmental health services into hospitals, because sometimes people have to pay way more just to get the mental health that they need, when sometimes they need to go to a hospital and they can't get treated because their problems aren't seen as drastic enough. Similar to this, we have integrating mental health services into primary cares. This would be great into implementing that private health insurance that I was talking about in my point before. And next, we have building informational community services around. That way people can get pamphlets, and this is not just phone calls, because not everybody has phones accessible to them. This is flyers, even going to door, just informing people of help that they can receive. And last, we have promoting self-care. There's a huge stigma on mental health, and it is a big reason why people cannot get the help that they need. If people talked about mental health in the ways that they can receive it, some of this atrocity wouldn't happen anymore. And this is why we need to come together as a nation and think about what we can do for each other. Think about how we can help the person next to us and how we can help them become a better person. It's really sad what the healthcare has gone to right now, how they see some things as more important than the other, but then they don't realize a death is a death. So I want to just bring it along and say that you should not be ashamed of asking for help. Now, we talked about today the reasons why people have the mental health struggles that they do, what we can do to help, as well as visualizing the future. The future of people supporting each other, giving each other the help that they need, and loving each other. I urge you to share this hotline with anybody you think needs help, and even if you think you need help or in a crisis, please call this hotline, and you should never be ashamed of getting the help that you need. And please take into consideration promoting a better service of getting mental health care to people. Thank you. And we will now have a 2-minute Q&A session. So we will start that now.
Why do you think that the pandemic has increased the numbers of suicide and mental health issues?
That's a good question. Well, like I said earlier, like I think it was my first point, there is a lot of isolation going on and a lot of fear. So with that isolation and fear, people feel very alone. They feel helpless because we have an uncertainty. Like things change every day, and I think that really affects people's mental health, and with no future, people get uncertain. Yes, Jeremy?
Do you believe personal income or personal economics play heavily into the possibility of suicide and depression?
Yes, of course. When I was doing research by the World Health Organization, it showed the string of incomes versus showed ethnicity, income, all of that. It showed people in the middle to lower class range or people of color were the ones who were most likely to commit suicide. So there's definitely a effect or correlation with your income versus suicide rates. So that's a good question. I like that question.
Would it also be the higher income counties having more access to health?
Exactly. The higher income counties are not part of that 60% because they just have more accessibility, more healthcare opportunities, and yeah. So, anybody else? One last question.
I have a question.
Yes, Morgan?
Do you think that maybe implementing mental health resources in schools starting at ages as young as maybe even elementary and middle school could start to diminish this issue from the bottom, especially implementing it in the lower income schools?
Yes. I think that, especially right now, kids are going through something that they've never felt before. So they're feeling anxiety, even depression at a very young age. And this is going to affect them lifelong. So I think starting with help early on, good help, will really benefit them in the future. That is all the time I have today. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it.